Broken Oaths by Dorian Vale, auto-narrated by Martin. Chapter 1, Tipping Point. The Sacramento night air clung to the strip mall like a damp shroud, the only sound the distant hum of a freeway, and the creaking of the faded 77 Malibu's old joints as Theo Waters and his daughter Maggie stepped out onto the cracked asphalt. The all-night convenience store loomed before them, its fluorescent lights casting an unforgiving glare over the deserted parking lot. The sign above the door read, "Open 24/7, in bold letters, a beacon of weary desperation that seemed to whisper promises of solace to the sleepless and the stranded. As they pushed through the door, a bell above it let out a tired jingle, and the air inside enveloped them like a stale blanket. The aisle stretched out before them, a labyrinth of identical shelves stacked with rows of identical products, each one promising relief from some mundane affliction. Theo's eyes scanned the shelves, his jaw set in a determined line as he navigated the narrow passages, Maggie trailing close behind. The smell of stale coffee and burnt hot dogs wafted from the food counter, mingling with the scent of disinfectant, and the faint tang of despair that clung to every surface. At the feminine hygiene section, Theo hesitated, his eyes scanning the rows of boxes with a mixture of confusion and embarrassment. Maggie hovered beside him, her eyes fixed on the floor, her hair falling around her face like a curtain of brown silk. The silence between them was oppressive, heavy with the weight of unspoken emotions and unresolved conflicts. Theo's gaze lingered on the various brands and types, his brow furrowed in concentration, before finally settling on a box of maximum protection tampons. He glanced at Maggie, seeking some sign of approval or dissent, but her expression remained inscrutable, her eyes hidden behind a veil of hair. As they made their way to the counter, the night clerk, Gary, looked up from his nudie magazine, his eyes flicking from Theo to Maggie with a look of calculating curiosity. The air seemed to thicken, heavy with unspoken tension, as Theo placed the box on the counter, his movements economical and deliberate. Gary's gaze lingered on Maggie, his eyes roving over her with a slow, almost palpable appreciation, and Theo's face darkened, his jaw clenched in a suppressed anger. The transaction that followed was a stilted dance, a ritual of awkward politeness and unspoken hostility. Gary's voice was a low, gravelly monotone, his words dripping with a scarcely veiled disdain, as he announced the total, $11.89. Theo's eyes dropped, his face falling, as he reached for his wallet, his fingers rummaging through the worn leather with a desperate urgency. The silence that followed was oppressive, heavy with the weight of unspoken desperation. As Theo counted out his meager cash, the bills crumpled and worn, the coins clinking against the counter with a hollow sound.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?